Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. Well, this is my first ever video, so I'll start with a little bit of an intro to what the channel's going to be. It's going to be a mostly Formula 1 based channel. However, I will hopefully, as we get more subscribers, delve into some of the different racing games and have some side series with them. But I'm going to be a mostly F1 YouTuber. And I'm sure we'll all agree that the best thing for content on F1 2021 it's got to be career mode, specifically my team career mode. So that's what I'm going to be starting off this channel with, the my team career mode. That's going to be the main series, and you've got to love it because it's always interesting. Everyone's my team career mode is always different, and as you get further into the my team career mode, you get to see the R&D changes and different drivers of different teams. Some mad things can happen. You can get rookie drivers winning world championships who were an F2 to start with, and that's what you've got to love. And also you get teams like Williams, they can rise up the order, but Mercedes can end up down it, and that's always so interesting to have. So that's why we're starting out with my team, and that's hopefully going to be the staple of the channel throughout all the different series we do. This is going to be the main thing for us to enjoy. But before I get into this video, which is going to be setting it up, just a quick thing. If you haven't, please hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. I know it's a pest, but even if you just hit the subscribe button, you have to hit the subscribe button once, and it just means so much to me. You know, that each subscriber that I get, you know, that means so much to me, and without the subscribers, I can't make the content. So if you've enjoyed this video and you're looking forward to the rest of this series and going on to the different series in this channel, please hit that subscribe button. And if you can, hit the like one. But let's get into it. Enough of me nattering. Alright then, well, the first thing we need to do, starting the career mode, is of course to decide on the calendar. So I'm going to go with a 10 race season. I know it's a little bit controversial because some people prefer to get every single race on the calendar, but the main reason why I'm doing 10 races is because I want us to get as far into this career mode so we can get as many interesting driver moves as possible and teams rising up the order. I think if we have shorter 10 race seasons, it's going to be much more interesting because we're going to reach, hopefully, further seasons instead of doing 23 races and maybe only getting 4 or 5, probably just 4 seasons in. You know, we might make it to something like 6 maybe with this. We'll have to see there because that is quite a lot of races, but it'd be great if we could make it to maybe the 6th season or maybe 5th. But you know, as I was saying, 23 races would be, as 4th to 5th is probably a bit unrealistic. We'd probably make it to the end of 3. You know, we really want to get as far into the career mode as possible, so that's why we're going to be doing 10 races per season. It should make each race a lot more important because each race is crucial because there's only 10 of them. So in terms of the calendar, I've decided 10 tracks. I'm sure it'll be a little bit controversial, but I will explain them. And we're going to start off the season in the desert at Bahrain. I love Sakhir. It's a fantastic track in my opinion. Great overtaking opportunities. It always creates an exciting race. You've got those fabulous overtaking opportunities. 3 DRS zones. It's pretty fantastic. Great overtaking opportunity turn 1. Turn 4, and then of course the 3rd DRS zone means that if you dropped away at the start of the middle sector, you can catch back up to the nearest cars, so that through the final sector down that straight, you get the slipstream, catch a bit closer, and get DRS for the main straight. It's really great for overtaking. And of course, tyre wear is very high. So, if you get through Q2 on the softs, you are committed to a 2-stopper. Get through on the mediums, you can go for the 1-stopper. And virtually everyone outside of the top 10 is going to go for the 1-stop. Probably medium to hards, or hard to medium if they want to go for something out of the box. And the 1-stopper is so much quicker around Bahrain, because often the 2-stopper is quite effective, but it's not around Bahrain. It's about 6 seconds quicker in total as the 1-stop. And because of that, you get drivers and teams that are usually hanging around 11th, 12th, 13th. And they've got a really good chance for points, and that's why I love it. Granted, the track does have its frustrating corners. Turn 10 is just hell, basically. turn 8 ain't much better. But it's also got that lovely flowing and fast section at the end of Sector 2 into Sector 3, which you've got to love. And I just think Sector 3 is fantastic. The corner at the start of it, great corner, and it's always about the exit. I love that corner. It's always about the exit, and you just push it to try and get as much momentum through as possible and get your foot on the throttle as quickly as possible. And then the final corner, that's also a great corner. You can every now and then get a few overtakes, especially right at the end of the race. You might be chasing down someone. They might have just run out of the RS from defending, and you can just send it into that final corner for a risk if you want that position. On to round number 2. I'm sure you'll be wondering what this one's going to be. It's going to be our Italian Grand Prix. We're only doing one Italian Grand Prix, and it's going to be at Imola. Controversial, I know. A lot of people love Monza. I really like Imola. I think it's a really great track. It's got an interesting dynamic. It's got one good overtaking opportunity, and by golly is it a good overtaking opportunity. There's a lot of... I feel you can get quite a bit of criticism about it. Like, there's only one overtaking opportunity. But that overtaking opportunity to turn 1, because it's such a long straight, with a few little kinks in it, but it's such a long straight, it makes a fabulous overtaking opportunity. And that chicane's always a great overtaking opportunity. You get some great side-by-side moments into it. So it's got that interesting dynamic where if you lose a position, you've got to hang on a second to them for a whole lap. Because if you go further away than a second, you're not going to get DRS. So it's got that interesting dynamic there. And of course, it's got some fabulous corners. I just like it when you're going down the hill. Not in the wet, that's hell in the wet. But when you're heading down the hill in the final sector, to those two left-handers, they're really great in the dry on a quality that when you nail it, perfect. And then, of course, you've got the hairpin. I'm loving the chicane at the start. And then, of course, the chicane again. You've got another chicane, and that's at the end of Sector 1, where you're going flat out through the first part of it and then braking at the apex, trying to carry as much speed through without drifting off to the gravel trap on the way out. And then, of course, the other chicane, at the start of Sector 3, which can be quite frustrating, but if you nail it, it's quite satisfying. So that is our round number 2, and that's the Italian Grand Prix. And after the Italian Grand Prix, we head to Spain. I'm sure this sounds a little bit surprising that I've chosen Spain next. But Barcelona, it is an interesting circuit. You've got that overtaking opportunity into turn 1. And then, of course, the other DRS straight means you don't drop too far away. It's pretty good circuit. I'll say pretty good circuit because there's definitely improvements that could be made. The chicane in Sector 3 at the end of the lap, just before the final corner, is unnecessary. But I love Sector 1. I think it's a great Sector 1. And it's got that really unique long turn 3. And then turn 4 is pretty nice one. Most of Sector 2 is pretty good. It has got a few frustrating chicanes where if you just take the curb, you're spinning off. And it's really frustrating, but you've got to take the curb to be quick. But overall, it is a decent track. So that's going to be on the calendar. It's going to be, I think, a good one to transition us from Bahrain and Imola across to the next tracks. And I think that's going to be an interesting one because after this track, there is quite a break until the next one. I've given you a little bit of a clue about where it might be because round number 4, we head away from Spain to all the way down here, round 4 in France. Paul Ricard. Now, I really do like Paul Ricard. I know it's a little bit of an odd obsession to like Paul Ricard, but I think it's really unique. In terms of having that much runoff, it is really unique, but it doesn't feel tedious like Sochi does. And you've got a very good mix of corners in there. I think Sector 1's pretty fantastic, really. Turn 1, always an exciting one. It's really hard with track limits around Paul Ricard. It's easy to invalidate laps and get warnings and penalties because you're always trying to take a little bit more curb because you can. It's not like it's grass there like I'm going to lose time. You want to take more curb and then run off because you can. It's there and it's not going to spin you out, but then you get track limits warnings and it's not what you want. So you have to be careful with that. Looking at the track itself, it does look a bit of an odd shape. Sector 3 wise can be a little bit clumsy around there. it's not the best at the start of Sector 3. I'll just say that. But Sector 1, I love that. I love that complex when you get down to the bottom of Sector 1 into Sector 2. I really like that complex, especially the right-hander at the start of it, that 90-degree right-hander. I really like that going into that left-hander, and then the swooping right-hander to get you onto the straight. It's got a great overtaking opportunity into turn 1 with the DRS, and an overtaking opportunity into the chicane. And then if you're very close with the chicane, and after it, then you can actually try and use a bit of ERS, maybe at a slipstream, and see what you can do into that lovely long right-hander on the straight afterwards. It's a pretty solid track. I really like it. And I think we'll go around there at Le Castellet. So that's round number 4. And then we're off to Austria for round number 5. Who doesn't like Austria? Fantastic track. Really fun to drive. It is quite short. 1 minute 5 is the lap record. But it's got a really great track. So that even though it's short, there's a lot to love about it, you know, and it does create exciting Grand Prix. It's got 3 DRS zones, and granted, they aren't the best overtaking opportunities, but up into turn 3, that's a fantastic overtaking opportunity, you know. There's also the overtaking opportunity if you get close to them into turn 1, maybe, possibly on the end of the 3rd DRS straight. It's quite a clumsy corner after that, but the track itself is really good. You're always pushing the limits quite a lot, definitely through Sector 3 now, trying to get on the throttle as early as you can to then carry the speed through. But overall, just a fantastic circuit at Spielbergen. Really fun to drive, always a great race, you know, it's always exciting. And also, back markers can spice things up a bit because it's not that long of a track. So, it's quite quick for the front runners to catch up to them. But yeah, just a great track, you've got to love it. There's not much more to say about Austria. So we'll move on to round number 6. And it wouldn't be a calendar without this, would it? It wouldn't be a calendar without Silverstone. It's my home race. I love Silverstone. Virtually everyone loves Silverstone. It's not really a surprise, is it? It's just fantastic. Wonderful track to drive. So fun. So exciting. Creates great racing. And you just got some iconic corners in there. You've got Maggots and Beckett's. That's fantastic. Just fantastic, that section. Love carrying the speed through there. And then, of course, you've got some great overtaking opportunities. You've got 2 DRS zones, of course. One into Brooklands, and then the other one heading into that lovely long right-hander that then kicks you out onto that straight, heading down into that tight left-hander, into the right, and then right again onto the main straight. And I actually love that section. That's probably my favourite part of the track, actually. And you can actually get a really great overtakes there if you get the pace out of Maggots and Beckett's, and I think Church it is. If you get the pace out of there along that straight, carry it through the right-hander, you can go for the move into that sharp left-hander at the end of that. So it's really great. And of course, Brooklands, Luffield, really iconic corner in my opinion, because it's just so unusual. You know, it's long right-hander. It feels like it's dragging on, but it's quite a tight one. And it's really tough at times to find the right line through there to be quick. So basically, we're going to Silverstone. And if it wasn't on the calendar, I could understand quite a bit of hate in the comments, because it's not really a calendar without Silverstone on it. So that is going to be, hopefully, a fantastic Grand Prix, as it always is, full of action and plenty of overtakes, of course, with the background of that beautiful wing pit building. And then on to the next one. Round number 7. Thought I'd go for something different. Hungary. A little bit spicy, a little bit different. It's quite a unique track in my opinion. It's not like most tracks. It's got a really interesting Sector 3 and Sector 1. A lot of tight, hairpin-like corners. It quite likes them. Does Hungary. But I think it's an overall decent track. You're always pushing and pushing. It has its problems, I do believe. You know, that right-hander. Don't even want to talk about it. You got that, it's the right-handers and left-hander section where it goes all over the place, and you're easy to drift out and lose the car, go onto the curb and just lose time, go over those bumps, and that's in Sector 2. But the worst part of it is that left-hander. In Sector, I think it's end of Sector 1, start of Sector 2. and you're going to go into turn 1. Turn 1's great. Then I actually quite like, turn 3, quite a nice corner. Turn 4. Turn 5 is hell. It's the epitome of disastrous. You can't actually take the corner properly. It just yeets you off onto the runoff, and you just can't even, it's virtually impossible, that corner. I just don't like it. I quite like the rest of it though. As I said, Sector 2's all over the place. S's can be a little bit frustrating if you don't get the line right, but if you get it right, it's quite smooth, quite enjoyable, really nice track overall. Different curbs, quite frustrating curbs, granted, but it's always an interesting track to drive at, and something a bit different, I feel, to a lot of the tracks we've chosen. We've chosen tracks that have got some great overtaking opportunities. This one has decent overtaking opportunities, but its straights aren't massive. It's got a lot of tighter corners, so it's going to create an interesting dynamic compared to the rest. 3 rounds to go, and round number 8, you probably already know it. It's got to be Spa. It has to be Spa. I love Spa because it's Spa. In my opinion, it's got probably the most famous corner, arguably the best in the world. Eau Rouge, and then of course Rodalion. You can't forget that. You can't forget Rodalion when you're talking about Eau Rouge. That selection of track, running down from the hairpin, and then onto the Kennel Straight, is just simply fantastic. Fantastic to drive. And it's got a really interesting track. If you look at the first sector, 1 hard braking zone. Final sector, 1 hard braking zone. Middle sector, all over the place, basically. So many braking zones. But that's nice. You've got a technical middle sector and a fast-flowing final and first sector. And that's what I really like about Spa. It's got some quite vicious curves. You've got to be careful with some of them. Pouhon, the curves on the inside of that, you don't want to take them. They just send you flying off, spinning around. You don't want to be on the runoff doing donuts, really, when you're not even controlling it. So it is quite frustrating at the section of track there, but when you get it right, when you get it nailed, it is a fantastic track to drive. And it's a classic. You've got to have it on your calendar. Spa. It's just a must, really, isn't it? One of the longest tracks on the calendar, granted, but it is action-packed and full. And of course, finishing off the lap with the bus stop chicane. It's just pretty fantastic. So, 2 more rounds to go. And if we just scroll down for you, you can see that we've got Belgium here, and then there's quite a way, all the way down here, to choose 2 tracks from. Quite a lot. So, it's quite a fine picked selection here from me. 2 tracks on here, and there's actually quite a big break from Spa, all the way down here. Because I'm not including any of these tracks. I've chosen the 8 tracks above there, and we're not doing Zandvoort and we're not doing Monza. Neither are we doing all of these, but what we are doing is we're going to Qatar. That's going to be hopefully an interesting race, that one. USA, different continent. We've got 7 European tracks, 1 Asian, 1 North American, and you're going to get a South American. That'll either be Mexico or Brazil. You'll see in a second. So in terms of USA, I like USA. It's an interesting track, a bit different, something quite unique. You've got the lovely S's that build up and build up. The start of the S's, flat out, you're going go, go, go. But towards the end of the S's, it's a lot tighter, and you've got quite a bit of braking involved. Just got to try and make sure the car doesn't run off. Some frustrating corners, niggly sections that I don't particularly like. Great overtaking opportunities though, of course, into turn 1 and down that long back straight, because you've got turn 1. It's quite an unusual corner. It's uphill. It's like a hairpin uphill. It's really unusual. But you've also got that good overtaking opportunity, that tight left-hander at the end of the long back straight. And you've got that dynamic where the middle sector is quite fast, but the final sector is technical, and the first sector is essence, basically. Yeah, pretty all-round track. That'll be an interesting one to go to. I'm quite interested to see how that one plays out. It's a great track generally in quali, but it can be quite hard once your tyres start to go. Now then, as you can see, we've had a massive break from Belgium to USA, and we're not going to have much of a break now to get to the final track on the calendar. We're not ending it with Abu Dhabi, we're not ending it with Saudi Arabia, and we're not going to Australia. We're going to, a little bit of a surprise, but we're going to Mexico. I've chosen Mexico over Brazil. I was going to choose one of the two, I like Mexico. I think quite a lot of people do. It's always great racing. And I think it's going to be the perfect way to finish off the season. You know, in Mexico, party atmosphere, stadium's going to be erupting, and fantastic overtaking opportunities. You've got that massive long straight where you can get plenty of overtakes there, cars switching all over the place into turn one. The first sector is quite tight, it's quite niggly, but it actually really does try to make you get the best out of the corners, because you've got to take as much out of them as possible, and you've got to generally put a lot of your car over the curb and almost cut them to the maximum. It really makes you push through that first section. That's what I really like about it in qualifying. And then you've got that beautiful S's section, really nice. It takes practice, but when you learn it, it's great to drive. Sector 2, you've got that double apex right-hander. I love that. It really fantastic track in my opinion. The stadium to finish off that. I'm not a massive fan of the stadium in terms of the corners in it, but you've also got the other DRS zone just before it, which allows you to catch back up to a car so you can get within a second of them for that lovely long main straight. And I think it's going to be an absolute party atmosphere to finish off this 10-round calendar. So there we have it. Quite a bit of a break afterwards before the new season starts. As you can see, I'm not going to Brazil, Australia, Saudi Arabia, Abu Dhabi, and of course there's a gap here from Belgium to USA. So we could see quite a lot of R&D changes in that. Of course, not going to Netherlands, Italy, Russia, Singapore, and Japan, and also an R&D changes, a few of them maybe, and see some cars moving up and down the order in terms of the teams from Spain down to France, with us not going to Monaco, Azerbaijan, and Canada, and then a little gap with not going to Portugal. So here is the finalized calendar: Bahrain, Imola, Spain, France, Austria, Britain, Hungary, Belgium, USA, and to round out the season, Mexico. So there we go, that is the calendar decided. So on to the next thing. Now then, here is how I'm going to be looking at my teammate for this season. I've gone with the breakthrough design. I really do quite like that, with the driver's suits. As you can see with the suit, I've gone with that design. I've got the black in the background as the canvas in a sense, and then I've gone in with the beautiful blue breaking glass like look, and then of course the extra details in that deep minty green, which I really do like. And of course then there's the helmet, which looks like this. I've gone again with the black, but I've also gone with the blue again too, and the green, but they're all a little bit lighter, a little more vibrant, and really is going to stand out, but looks kind of mysterious in a sense. It looks, in my opinion, very vibrant and exciting of a design, of course, with the black, and then allowing the colours to jump out of it and sort of take their own personality onto it. I really do like it, basically. I'm waffling a little bit, but that's the design I've gone with for the helmet. Lovely colour contrast in there with the blues and the greens. And then, of course, the other thing is the gloves. They don't mean that much, but you might see them on the steering wheel when we're racing. Gone with the same design as the breakthrough. So there you go, and that's what I'm going to be wearing for the season and my teammate. On to the most important part of setting this up, and that is, of course, when you've got the team name put in, which is Dynamo Mechanics F1 Team. Quite like that name. I think it's pretty clean. And then, of course, we've got to choose your sponsor. And as you can see, I'll talk over this dude because he's not really helping us. We've got the sponsors going from left to right. Of course, the ones on the right with the biggest signing bonus. The ones on the left with less of a signing bonus, basically. But the ones on the less get a higher weekly income. The ones on the right get a lower weekly income. So you either get the money now or the money later, effectively. And then, of course, there's the goal bonuses. They really do vary. You know, X4 me, you're just going to get 1.68 million because you're going to complete the season. So there you go, all done. You got your money. But then you look at Zenom Dynamics, you've got to get 15 Constructor Championship points. 25 Constructor Championship points for Moon, but you get 4.7 million. So that's where it really varies. I'm going to go with Zenom Dynamics here, of course. You get a decent signing bonus of 4,500, which is pretty good. And then 4.03 for goal bonus, I think is feasible. And then the weekly income, 268k, solidly around about the middle.
Obviously, the greater the performance and durability, the better. But be careful about spending all our cash. We are going to have people and facilities to invest in as well.
With the power units, there are 4.
Will also provide upgrades throughout the season, free of charge.
Renault, Honda, Mercedes, and Ferrari. And I think we can rule Renault out to start with. I'm sorry, Renault, but 82 performance is just way below Honda, Mercedes, and Ferrari. It's not good enough. We need more power than that. We need to at least be competitive off the start. Durability wise, it's third. It's not fantastic either, really, with durability. It's third. It's better than Mercedes, but it's still not great. Then you've got Honda, Mercedes, and Ferrari left. In terms of power, Mercedes is 95. It's leading. And then Honda and Ferrari separated by 1 with 1989. The durability-wise, though, Mercedes is just at 84. It's the worst. That's really not what we need. We want to be finishing races to stand a chance of getting points. So I'm going to rule Mercedes out of it because I want a good balance between the performance and durability. Then there's Honda and Ferrari, and logically between the two, I'm not looking at the money for the moment. It's 200,000. We want a good power unit supplier. I'm quite a Ferrari fan, so I'm edging towards that one. And also, the durability is +6, but -1 on performance for Ferrari compared to Honda. So it's pretty much a win in terms of durability. So there we go.
Much of a team without a second driver. Here are the drivers interested in joining our team. Look at their stats and pick someone you think can get us good results, as long as we can afford them. We renew contracts periodically, so you have plenty of chances to sign someone else should the need arise.
So once we've done the power units and the silencers, there's one more thing left to do on this section. Is to choose the teammate. We've got a lovely selection from Jalal, Samaya, Alessi, Daruvula to Tictum, Eilert, Zhou, and Schwartzman. So there you go, all these different drivers, and we've got to choose one. Now, I really don't want to be choosing Galel, Samaya, Alessi, or Daruvula. You know, they're 65 or below. That's not really what we need. Instead, I'm going to go for this selection. Not a particularly massive fan of Dime Tictum, so we'll forget that he's here. Then, of course, there's Callum Eilert, Guan Yu Zhou, and Robert Schwartzman. Pretty tough one to decide, this one. If you just look at their stats, focus-wise, they're pretty close. That will change throughout the season. Experience, you know, you're looking at Zhou's pretty good on experience, but racecraft, that's Schwartzman. Awareness, Schwartzman and Zhou, and pace, Schwartzman, and he's got the highest overall rating. I think we're going to go for Schwartzman. They're all 800k, so I think we're going to go for Robert. You know, he's been pretty solid in F2. He's sat there just finishing around the 3rd to 5th mark, and he's just been so close. And of course, Zhou's going to come in next season. For Alfa Romeo, we're going to go with Robert Schwartzman.
Looks like we can afford this power unit supplier and teammate. Go ahead and confirm if you're happy.
There we go, that's a decent decision there. 3,800 out of our 4,500 is there. And we've got a good team set up with the Ferrari power unit and Robert Schwartzman, along with sponsored by Zenem Dynamics. So let's get into the next part. Well then, what I think a lot of people will have been waiting for is, of course, the livery design. Doesn't it look fantastic? I have gone with the lightning stripes for this livery for our first season, and I've left the stripes as black. I think they look really effective as that, which then allows you to have this beautiful color contrast from the blue into the green, that sort of sea blue that I was using earlier into the petrol green, and the contrast, in my opinion, is just fantastic. Just absolutely loving it, and you can just see the colors. It just blends perfectly with this livery. And then the lightning stripes breaking it up. And of course our Zenem Dynamics on the side, number 51, those beautiful hards on. I think that goes really well with having the black and the white. But there you go, that's our livery design that we will be running for this season. You're going to probably see plenty of it, but I think it's just a fantastic design because of the colours. You've got to love the colours here. You know, the colour changing from the blue to the mint. And now the final design. There you go, you can see me there, teammate Robert Schwartzman. We've got that beautiful badge in the background for Dynamo Mechanics F1 team, the lovely livery, and then of course our team colours. So that is the full show there. And there we go, we've designed the team. So the next part is off to the interview with Will Buxton.
Hello folks, and welcome to this, a very special edition of Paddock Pass. As you can see, there's no pit lane behind me, and as you can hear, no roar of engines, and that's because they've set me free from the F1 paddock to escape here to the countryside and to the headquarters of Formula One's newest team. Now, it's not every day we get to pull back the curtain and look behind the scenes at an F1 team. Rarer still that we get to talk not only to the team owner, but also the team's lead driver. But what makes this place extra special is that the owner and lead driver are one and the same person. Now, it's been an interesting 12 months, and we all know a number of the regulation changes which were due to come into effect this year have been delayed until next. Some, though, are still seeing the light of day, amongst them the all-important budget cap, which gives some of the smaller teams a little further down the order, potentially, the opportunity to compete with the bigger teams. Good for them, but great for us as viewers. But what does our new team owner think about these new rules? Do they see them as a challenge, a hurdle that needs to be overcome? Perhaps they see them as an opportunity to disrupt the status quo, a chance to come out swinging and to carve their name into Formula One history. Well, I had the opportunity to ask them these very questions just earlier today, and here's what they had to say. Well, first of all, thanks so much for inviting us here today. It's been wonderful to see behind the scenes. As you might expect, I've got about 1 million questions, so let's jump straight in. It's been a long time since we last saw a team owner take their own car onto the track, and the sport's changed enormously in the intervening years. How are you going to handle the responsibilities of both managing and driving for a Formula One team?
Well, this question doesn't really have any effect on the team, so I'm going to just answer it how I want to answer it, not like most of the questions from the press in F1, where it has a massive effect on your team and all of a sudden your R&D is going down a massive cliff. But yeah, that's probably the best way. That's how I put it. It's not about me, it's about my team and behind them 100% together we're unstoppable. So that's the way to put it.
Let's talk about your teammate. Now, it's clear they're excited to have signed with you, but tell me, what is it that you think they bring to the team?
I mean, I know these two questions at the start don't have an effect, but if you see it was tough to get any driver to sign, like, that's just dissing them already, mate. I'm going to put their skill set suits our team.
So you've obviously been putting a lot of work into the car. I know it's early days, but how do you expect it to feel out there?
Well, this is where it gets interesting. You don't want to go too power heavy and durability heavy at the start because you've already got that from your power engine. So we probably want to go and focus on the chassis and the aero. So we're going to go with the chassis balance is incredible to start with on this one.
Most of the other teams can boast years of experience in Formula One. Where do you see the opportunities to make those vital performance gains you need to put you within reach of the other cars?
I'm going to go with it's going to be tough. We'll have a better picture after the first. No, I'm joking. I'm not going to go with that. That would be terrible. That would stop us from getting anywhere. A fresh pair of eyes can find solutions to team. Yeah, I think drag's definitely going to be something you want to focus on.
Ultimately, your success this season is going to come down to whether you can take positions from the other drivers. What is it about your car that's going to give you that edge in those battles?
I think we need to go again with chassis here.
And finally, with so many specialist departments working together here at your headquarters, and with such an important deadline coming up, who's getting that coveted Teacher's Gold Star? Which group do you feel the most proud of right now?
Probably going to go with chassis again. No, it's a bit chassis area off the start, but you can gain a lot in the chassis department in this talking because you get some big upgrades, and that's going to help us hopefully. Going to go with the chassis.
thank you so much for your time. Been wonderful to get an insight from you and, of course, to see around the headquarters. Thank you for today. Really appreciate it. And thank you all at home for watching as well. We'll see you very soon.
Everything has been set up now, and we are ready to go and start getting into all of the admin before the Bahrain Grand Prix, which will be the next video. But before I do get into talking about the admin and the R&D and looking at all that, just like to say first, the way I'm going to structure these weekends videos for the Grand Prix, you've got the race weekend. One video is going to have quali in it, and some of them the build up to the race, of course, doing maybe a bit of admin before it in terms of the R&D. And then the video after, we're going to have the race. That's the way it's going to work, because I want to get as much detail in as possible. And if I do both of them in one video, we're not going to get that much detail. And I want as much detail as possible so that I can create great content for you guys to enjoy. So that's how it's going to go. And in terms of the race lengths, qualifying is full. The race is 50% distance, which is what most people do. I prefer it because full race is a bit tiring. So as you can see, we've already got Spec 1 on the chassis, and in the R&D department, already ahead of Alpine. AlphaTauri in a very tasty position. They're nice and up there above Aston Martin, and we are below Aston Martin but above Alpine. So we want to try and stay where we are now. We've got 4 on chassis durability and 3 on powertrain, 1 on aero. Just have a look at durability to see where we are compared to other people. We're actually pretty high up there, which is important for us. So I think we're going to have a look at the others and then just decide what I'm going to do some upgrades on. Chassis-wise, we are mid-pack. Powertrain, we're actually just above mid-pack. And then if we jump across to aero, that's pretty low for us. We want to try and get into the mix in aero. So I think we're going to focus on getting the suspension streamlined arms. Adding some activities, I think we'll probably go for the driver training camp to start the season. That might be a good one. You want to focus on getting Schwartzman in a good position. That gives us some R&D too, which is what we need. So we'll go with the driver training camp, and then of course there is the focus we could do on power and durability or aero and chassis. I might do that. I might do the aero and chassis because that's probably what we need to focus on. But then again, actually no. I'm going to remove that activity, and we're going to go with... There's the opportunity to go for 500k cash. That's quite a good amount. It's a good amount. How much does the facility cost? You know, what are we looking at for this? Millions. Low millions. So I think we're going to go with... Probably get a bit of team acclaim. Aero and chassis though, 50% actually above morale. We're going to go with that instead. Yeah, that's pretty solid decision there. Let's just get into 14th. Oh, personnel department
has asked us to deal with this. We have a couple of options here. Take your time. What you decide to do will have consequences.
Because of where Schwartzman is, he's an F2 driver. He's not going to be extremely quick. He's probably going to be below where the car is for most of the season, unless we really focus on upgrading him. He will grow over time, but for the first season, he's really going to struggle. So to be logical in this situation, I do think pace is more important, because I'd rather have him, for the team's sake, get 2 top 10 finishes and 3 DNFs than have no top 10 finishes and no DNFs, because what matters is not how many times you finished a race. Actually, it's about points. So I'm going to go with pace.
Well. Thank you.
I know that well. Although I just said that, but I have no idea what my decision was, probably. So we need to get a lovely aero upgrade on, so that we don't drop back from Alpine doing upgrades. And we've got some ones down here that we need to get onto. These 4 are going to be quite important for rear downforce and front downforce. We also want to have a little look at tyre wear at some point, because that's going to be quite important. And then, of course, the supplier upgrades. I'm hoping I'm going to get the light pistons at some point. That's estimated the 13th of May, so that's quite a way into it, is that one. In terms of the durability, pretty good, though, on durability from the suppliers. That's accepted September. Yeah. So doing pretty well on that from the suppliers. And then, of course, we're going to try and get that aero upgrade in just to stay ahead of Alpine. Because if you look, there's this lovely scramble here. That's pretty close. So we want to be in that, and then gearbox and weekend tyre allocations are there. Corporate-wise, Schwartzman's contract, that's going to be going, I think, until we get 13th of December. In terms of the driver mark, we'll have a look at this. In terms of what I'm looking at, we've got Kimi Raikkonen pretty high there. 87 rated, Leclerc 89 rated. In there, Sainz 89, Norris 89, some good drivers in here. Further down, and we should find our teammate there, 75 rated Schwartzman. So yeah, pretty interesting just to have a little nosy at the stats for the drivers. Verstappen's been racing 93, which is fair enough. He should be pretty close to Hamilton since he's won the Drivers' Championship in the real life. But yeah, just having a little nosy around for next time in terms of when we get to go for drivers at the end of the season. But now on to the car reveal. Well, there we go. The car's been revealed. Looks beautiful, sat there. Fantastic. And then, yeah, we're just going to continue with the rest of this admin. I'm hoping that we can probably get an aero upgrade in at some point. Maybe with the R&D points, we're going to need them. But we're certainly going to need to get a bit more money. We've got the weekly resources coming in soon. But
the
before...
Martin team wants to run this one past you.
F1 Esports and Roberts could go. If we were to decline it, then nothing would happen. But if we were to agree to it, he'd get a lot of acclaim, but he'd lose a lot of racecraft. Such a tough one, this one. Because you want him to get acclaim, because he's more likely to get a seat in, say, in F1. But I don't want to reduce his racecraft. But then again, it's a very tough decision, this one. Because that acclaim is going to be good for us as a team too. So I think I'm going to go with it.
I appreciate you taking the time to help out.
Because having a good driver as a teammate should help us ourselves. Of course, his racecraft is 67 now. It took a bit off, but that's okay. That's okay. Of course, Robert's acclaim level is 5, so we want to get that up a bit. Because if you look at some of the other drivers, in terms of acclaim, we need to get him towards some of these, because we've got 5. Look at the rookie Yuki Tsunoda's got 5, so you want to bring Schwartzman up a bit. Schwartzman then to be around Schumacher and Tsunoda, they've got 5. And of course, Nikita Mazepin is on 4, so you want to try and get him up there, and hopefully when we do probably get a different driver for next season, he'll get a seat in F1 for the second season, while we get someone maybe a bit more experienced. And there we go, some more R&D points, and let's have a look at the aero side of it. And I think we're pretty close to getting these, but we need a little bit more. What else is there? There's the tyre wear upgrades, they'd be interesting. But not much more we can do is we get the aero and chassis focus. And there we go. That is it in terms of the admin. So we're pretty much at the end of this video now. Not much more left for us to do, but we did actually get some more R&D points. So before we finish off, we'll just have a quick look at this. Yeah, we're pretty close to getting that. We have got more R&D points, and we can now do some more investments in different things. Of course, if we let me just show you in terms of the R&D progress, that's not going to be ready until the 14th of April. So that's not going to be ready, sadly, for the Bahrain Grand Prix. But it should be in for the Imola Grand Prix, which I'm expecting. And then, of course, there is this minor tyre wear for the roll dampers. We could do that, or we could focus on something over here, like these flaps, which are going to be pretty crucial for us. So we're going to probably go with, I think, the rear wing main plane would be a good one, but we've reached the department capacity because we've only got one. So we're probably going to put one of these on hold while that does that. And then we're just left with the monocoque structure and the engine covered distribution here. That'd be important for us, but at the same time, we can't do that at the moment because we're missing a little bit of R&D. So what we're going to do there is just going to leave that for the moment, but as soon as we get a little bit of R&D, we're going to then focus on that monocoque structure, I think, to then upgrade ourselves on the chassis side of it, and then hopefully we plan just to stay around the Alpine, Aston Martin, Alpha Tauri group, try and stay with them for the whole of this season. We don't want to be dropping back towards Alfa Romeo and Williams. So there we go. That is it for this video. As I said at the start, if you haven't already, please hit that like and subscribe button. Thanks a lot for watching, and catch me next time for the Bahrain Grand Prix Season 1, Round 1 qualifying.